What is going on, everybody? Let's Talk Jets Radio. Hope you guys are doing well. It has been a minute. I miss every single one of you guys. Apologies for the lack of content and the lack of updates over the last couple months. Normally this is the time of year where I'm cranking out as much content as I usually do, being, off of work and at training camp and things like that. This is actually the first summer that I have not been able to take off of work. I mentioned to you guys back in November, I was starting a new job, going into the city every day. So yeah, my hours have just been all over the place, kind of crazy. Some nights I'm getting home, past midnight. So unfortunately, during the week, I haven't really been able to do the shows and things like that. I have been tuning in after the fact. I've seen a lot of the comments, and I know a lot of you guys have been asking, like, what's the future of the show, the channel, and things like that. And obviously, shout out, first off to Tyson for, always finding a way, no matter what's going on in his life, to get content up, to be consistent with it. It's what I strive to do. But unfortunately, just, my hours, make it impossible for Monday nights, Tuesday nights right now. But I did want to give you guys, obviously, an update, as far as the future of streams and if you're going to see me on this channel and things like that. And the answer is yes, I'm not going anywhere. I did start a crazy job, so, I should get into that first, actually, because, I told you guys back in November that I was making a job change and I was going into the city every day, but I never really explained or got into the nitty gritty of what I was doing. And, I'll be completely honest, like, I didn't want to say it at the time. I was friggin' terrified when I made that switch, just because at age 37, you're getting a little bit older, you're starting to get locked into pension, looking forward to retirement. I had put in 14 years as a teacher. And so walking away from that and just starting over was a major risk. It was a major gamble that I was taking on myself. But I knew ultimately that I wasn't happy doing what I was doing anymore, and I needed to find a way out. I needed to make a change. And the opportunity presented itself to go work for one of my idols, Gary Vee. I've been watching his videos since I was back in college. Just an incredible motivator and somebody that I always looked up to. And when the opportunity presented itself, I'm like, done. I got to do this. I got to take this chance. It would be one of those things that I'd look back, 10, 15, 20 years from now and just have that pit in my stomach of regret for not going after it. So I knew this was something that I ultimately had to do. It was by no means a glamorous starting job. I was doing inventory fulfillment, sleeving cards, sending out packages, moving boxes. A lot of dirty and gritty work. But thankfully now, I've been there 9 months. I do a lot of live streams. So if you guys want to check me out during the week, you could download TikTok, you could download Whatnot. We have plenty of different shows on there, some new content ideas coming out. So please, please, please support if you can, or if you just want to chat at any point during the week. But I did want to do this video mainly to provide an update as far as streams going forward, where game days, I'm not giving that up. I know that for many of you, that's the backbone of this channel. It's what you got started into with Let's Talk Jets Radio, which were the crazy COVID, wild, drunken streams that we would do. And so I'm not going anywhere for game day. I'm not a season ticket holder anymore. I'm not going to be at the game, so I'm going to be relaxing on the weekend. Would love to be able to do that, obviously, with all of you and keep that tradition going for a little bit longer. But unfortunately, during the week, Monday through Friday, at least for right now, for the current time being, it's going to be tough for me to pull off shows during the week. And at least that during the time slot that we normally do from, 8 to 9, 8 to 10, just because week to week, I don't know what my schedule is going to be. I don't know if I'm going to be early, late, if there's going to be train issues. And obviously you guys deserve a consistent show. I don't want to put Tyson through that where he's got to, be texting me every week. Are you going to be here? Like, when's your train getting in? You guys deserve a consistent show, a consistent time slot. And so whether that's, Bubs on Monday night or, whoever it's going to be, if it's going to be Afram, I'm sure they're going to do a great job. But I do want to do live streams during the week. It's just a matter of when I can squeeze them in and what time is best for everybody. For me, most likely it's going to have to be some form of like overnights or early morning, things like that. And obviously I don't have my own apartment now, which further complicates matters a little bit. I kind of got kicked out of my apartment. I got a whole bunch of stuff in my car right now, so I'm kind of living on somebody's couch for the time being. So obviously game days won't be a problem for that, but, just thinking later at night, as, my friend's trying to go to sleep, like me screaming, talking Jets. I don't know exactly how that's going to work yet, but I'm trying to figure something out where obviously I could still keep the live streams going during the week, especially at a different time slot where maybe we can get a different audience and people overseas, or just people that, overnights or early mornings just work a little bit better. So I still 1000% want to get live streams in, but I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. And so I'm not going to, give you a set time or say, 2 shows a week, 3 shows a week. It's going to be very inconsistent. And, if you know me, I guess that's to be expected to some degree. But, during the season, I do try to be very consistent, especially in training camp. And that's why, it sucks for, the past couple months where I haven't been able to get to training camp. I've been trying to follow everything as closely as possible, but certainly not where I'm normally at this time of year. And, again, it's the first summer I haven't been able to take off of work, but, ultimately this opportunity that I have, it deserves my full attention. It's going to get my full attention. When I was out a couple weeks with the hand, basically as soon as I got back, my mindset was just all in, all gas, no break. I hate even saying that now. But I knew I had to go all in on this chance that I had and try to make the most of it. And I'm glad that, things currently are working out. And, that's going to continue to be the number one priority for me. But like I said, the hours are all over the place week to week. So I just don't know what time I'm going to be home. Obviously, if Tyson wants to bring me on a Monday night where I get home at 7, 8 o'clock, more than welcome to hop on. But I think just for consistency and not putting him through stress, not having you guys all wonder, am I going to be here? Am I not going to be here? It's probably best, for the Monday, Tuesday. Obviously, Tuesday, he's got Jet Central. And, for the Mondays, it could be Bubs, it could be Afram, combination of all sorts of guests that we have. But more likely than not, during the week, it's going to be very, very difficult for me to get on. So I will try to arrange, maybe a Friday night, Saturday night, game preview kind of show, possibly Sunday. Keep the live stream going after the game for an hour or two just to, let people vent and get their takes in. Obviously, after today's news with AVT, it's kind of got me thinking like, here we go again, as much as I enjoyed listening to a lot of the content, part of me is so glad as my lights go out. We back. Part of me is so glad that I didn't have to go through what I normally go through every year as far as the buildup of training camp, the hype machine, getting all these expectations, all this excitement. And then once the season gets here, it's like air right out of the balloon. What do we really have? And, it's not to say that I don't believe in Aaron Glenn. It's not to say that I don't think Justin Fields has a skill set that could be good. I just feel like Fields as a passer is going to be a little bit too inconsistent. I don't think he has any help other than Garrett Wilson. Hall kind of is what he is. I almost feel like it's inevitable what's going to happen to him after this year. Certainly going into a contract year, he's going to be motivated, but I do feel like Aaron Glenn's mindset is going to be, 40-40-20 as far as how the backfield reps are going to get split. I don't know how Breece is going to like that, but at the same time, I love Braylon Allen. Somebody that can play out his rookie contract, sign a 5-year extension, play that out, and he'll still be under 30 years old. So I just feel like he's the more physical runner. He could push the pile forward a little bit. Certainly not as explosive as Breece Hall, but I think most people would agree that the rookie year Breece Hall that we saw versus the last 2 years, it's been a little bit of a step back. Haven't exactly seen that same kind of explosiveness. And then overall, just, looking at the rest of the roster, I'm like, did Gibson really deserve the job over Pritchett? Did Lazard and Josh Reynolds really deserve to be listed as starting receivers on this team? And I know Arian Smith is a rookie. He'll gradually get worked in, rooting for the best for him. But it's like Alan Lazard is still here as a starting receiver. And then, Jeremy Ruckert, tight end 1, AVT out for the year. I'm just like, here we go again. All the same shit. And I'm not saying that Aaron Glenn's obviously going to treat it the same way or that the results are going to be the same. Certainly if you feel like at the end of the year, even if the team only wins 7-8 games, but the culture is definitely shifting inside that locker room, you probably walk away feeling relatively positive. But I just don't know how much I expect to change, especially from a wins and losses standpoint. I just don't feel like the roster got a whole lot better. I wasn't a fan of the Stevens signing. I wasn't a fan of the Cisco signing as far as the secondary goes. So, I'm kind of looking at this team and I'm like, what are they going to be? Jermaine Johnson has questions coming back from the injury. Will McDonald was great for 4 games and kind of, dropped off a little bit. Does Quinnen Williams ever take that next step and become elite like they need him to be? Just an absolute game wrecker on that D-line. Even Garrett Wilson, I think there's plenty of pressure on Garrett Wilson, considering the options that they have at number 2. He just signed the big contract. He's going to be facing double teams all day. I think the expectations for him certainly go up as well. He had some drops, fumbles, the past couple years. He's almost got to be perfect. He's got to be a guy that, strikes fear in defenses that you constantly have to double team and try to take away. And so, defenses are going to look to do that. And I just don't know what the Jets' options are after him. Certainly dumping it off to Breece Hall, Justin Fields making plays with his legs. But all that obviously just got a whole lot more difficult with AVT being out for the year. So what was a strength for the New York Jets with their offensive line, an offensive line that I would put up there with any offensive line in football, suddenly now you're looking at and saying, all right, well, love the 2 tackles. Now what are we going to be on the interior, where you got Tippmann, you got Myers, you got Simpson, all good players, but neither of them, I would say, are probably elite. But that's, again, where coaching comes into play, the new system, and, having a mobile quarterback could definitely help. But, this is just where creativity, game planning, all sorts of things that we haven't seen in the past, it's going to be highlighted now. So I'm trying to get excited for the year, but admittedly, I feel like I'm at that point, and I said this months ago, where it's just constant cautious optimism. I want to believe, I want to hop on board. I want to think this could maybe be a 9-10 win team if everything goes right and they surprise. I just think we're kind of kidding ourselves if we think this is going to be a playoff team. I'd love to be wrong, but I've also prided myself on never coming on this channel and trying to say anything that I don't truly believe in my heart. And in my heart, I could say to you guys, honestly, and maybe this is part just because I haven't been at training camp, I haven't been around it like I normally am in years past, but deep down in my heart, I can't say that I'm excited about this year, or that my expectations are high, or that I expect Aaron Glenn to turn things around overnight. And it's not going to be an overnight fix anyway, but even just those building blocks of seeing the culture start to change and just seeing a different mindset and a different attitude in that locker room, I think it's going to take a lot, just based on what's happened the past number of years, the playoff drought and the involvement with ownership, all the mess that they've had in the locker room. I just don't know where morale is at. And it's easy to say in training camp and preseason that, oh yeah, this is discipline, this is a new era of Jets football. It's easy to say all those things when you're not actually playing games. But now that the games are getting started, the whole back and forth with Aaron Glenn and the media, it was cool in the beginning. But now if you lose by 30 points and you're trying to act like you know more than everybody else, and you're snapping at the media for every question, that act, I think, is going to wear thin pretty quickly if the team isn't backing it up on the field. So there's just a lot that I think this team has to prove. Certainly you want to get behind, again, Aaron Glenn and Justin Fields as the new era of Jets football. I loved Fields coming out of the draft 2 years ago. Thought he was head and shoulders above Zach Wilson. I liked him as a leader, and obviously what he could do, as a mobile quarterback, and even, his deep ball isn't terrible. So I thought there was a skill set to work with there. I still do, but obviously he's got to put it together consistently, especially with the short passing game, the quick screens, hitting guys on those quick slants, especially when guys are open, hitting them in stride, letting them get the yards after catch and things like that. Things in the preseason that weren't exactly very consistent. And even in training camp, a lot of the reports were saying the same thing. The accuracy numbers, the completion percentage, not exactly where you want it to be. So, you try not to look too much into what's going on in the offseason, but just very difficult for me on a personal level. And again, maybe it's just because I haven't been there at training camp. Maybe it's because I finally canceled my season tickets that, that usual excitement isn't there. I haven't been on the shows, so maybe that's part of it. But, even as I try to, think about the team and, doing this video now, like deep down in my soul, in my heart, to say that I believe in the 2025 New York Jets. I want to believe. I want to think they could do big things this year. I'd love to see Garrett and Sauce and Jermaine Johnson and Justin Fields and all these guys exceed expectations and, become the true core of this team for the next 5-10 years. But, I just think in comparison to the rest of the league, in comparison to other coaches that have been there and done it. Now you got Vrabel in the division. I just think the Jets have such a long way to go in order to catch up to some other teams. And it's not to say that Aaron Glenn and Justin Fields might not be the right guys to get them there, but expecting them to do it this year, especially based on the offseason that we had. I mean, who did the Jets really sign this offseason that got you really excited? And they lost a lot of talent too. Like, let's be real. They lost a good amount of talent from Moses, Devontae Adams, CJ Mosley obviously retiring, but you brought back Sherwood, which is good. DJ Reed walking, Conklin. They lost a good amount of talent, and you're asking a brand new coaching staff to try to get more out of guys that, at least on paper, you would think are a little bit less talented than who they're replacing. So it's very hard to, I think, get behind this team from the standpoint of, this is going to be a 9-10 win team, or it's going to be a team that makes the playoffs. Certainly you can get behind them, like I said, as being guys that maybe are the right fit to change the culture, and maybe in 2 or 3 years you're a playoff team. But for the immediate right now of this season, I'm kind of expecting 5, 6, maybe 7 wins at best. I can't say I'm expecting a whole lot more than that. I will say from a schedule standpoint that other than maybe the Ravens and Bills, not too many teams on the schedule that really scare me that I feel like the Jets shouldn't compete with. I'm not sure if I expect to win week 1, but certainly there's no reason to think at home opener, that the Jets can't compete with Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. So there's just a lot that this team and all these individuals in this locker room have to prove, I think, before I get really excited. But more than anything else, as I'm rambling now for 17 minutes here, more than anything else, I just wanted to do this video to thank all you guys for all the comments, for all the questions, asking where I'm at. It does mean a lot to me, and I do sincerely apologize, because I know so many of you look forward to the streams and the game streams and everything else that we do. And I apologize that I have not been able to hold up my end of that. But I certainly think that most of you would understand where I'm coming from with the opportunity that I have in front of me to just make sure that, my head is locked in on what the priority needs to be. And then obviously now that I'm, getting settled into a new place, I finally got all my stuff out over the last couple weeks in August. I'm finally getting settled in here. Certainly now, I'll be able to find some time to just hop in the car like this, off the train, do a quick video. And like I said, for game days every Sunday, except for maybe 1 or 2, I should be around. I'm not going to be at the games. I don't have any plans to go to any home games this year. Certainly if somebody wants to offer me tickets, I know there's going to be a good tailgate, maybe I'll consider it. But as far as the game goes, unless the Jets are like 5-2 or something, towards the second half of the year, it's hard for me to, picture spending a full Sunday going out to the game, spending all that money, and even just being tired on the weekends. I'm working 5 days a week into the city, getting home some nights after 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. Like, I'm exhausted on the weekends. I need to recharge and refresh. So certainly sitting at home, having a couple beers, watching the Jets during a live stream sounds amazing right now, regardless of the product on the field. So I'm definitely looking forward to Sunday. I will be around. I'll be watching the game. I will be on with you guys. But then obviously, like I said, after Sunday, as far as what a schedule would look like, or, when I can hop on, what time I can hop on, that's going to vary week to week. And so I do apologize for that. But definitely, shout out to Tyson and Bubs and Afram and everybody that's been filling in, doing a great job. But yeah, I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to overpromise, underdeliver. And I just, week to week, for the current time being, I have no clue, what my schedule is going to look like. But if I am home early, like I said, if Tyson wants to bring me on, I'm more than happy to hop on for Monday nights. Other than that, like I said, Friday night, Saturday night, if we could do a game preview, probably later on in the evening, I'm certainly up to that. And then, extending the stream on Sundays after the game, could certainly do that. So definitely, leave some comments, leave your input as far as potential hours that could work outside of the usual Monday, Tuesday, 8 to 10. And I'll see what my schedule is looking like week to week. And I will do my very, very best to set some things up, to, more than anything, to give you guys a voice. Because, I could always hop on like this in my car, do a quick video. But the live streams I always viewed as more of an opportunity for all of you to have a voice in what's going on with the team and to just vent and get things off your chest, whatever it may be this season, whatever this season holds. I know you guys are going to want to talk about it. So, leave some comments as far as what works best for you guys, and I will do my absolute best to try to set some things up. But apologies for the 20-minute rant. I'm going to go eat some dinner, so talk to you guys later.